In one test, an undercover agent was stopped after setting off an alarm at a magnetometer, but TSA screeners failed to detect a fake explosive device that was taped to his back during a follow-on pat-down. So I don't really know how they missed that, because I've been pat down by the TSA before, and they get pretty aggressive. So I don't think that, I really don't understand how they could have, they didn't give him the aggressive pat down to miss an explosive device taped to his back, but they did 95% of the time. Now, the head of the TSA has been reassigned because it is nearly impossible to fire an employee of the federal government. So now he's just been reassigned so that he can be wholly ineffective in another department of the government. Now, the TSA was put in place after 9/11 to protect our freedoms, so they have to strip away our freedoms. A very perplexing logic, just like saying, to keep us safe, we need to be disarmed. So the only people who can have guns are the criminals. Well, now, 14 years later, Rand Paul is joining the fight to release these 28 pages, release the secret 9/11 documents. Now, these 28 pages of documents are thought to contain information that relates to direct involvement by Saudi Arabia and senior figures there in the Saudi Arabian government. At a Capitol press conference today, Paul said, "We cannot let page after page of blanked out documents be obscured by a veil. Information revealed over the years does raise questions about Saudi Arabia's support, or whether their support might have been supported to these al-Qaeda terrorists." Senator was surrounded by families of victims of the terror attacks, as well as other lawmakers who are campaigning for these documents to be made public. Now, Paul has introduced legislation. It's called Transparency for the Families of 9/11 Act. And this would force the Obama administration to disclose the pages which were extracted from a congressional inquiry into these attacks in 2002. And it was made secret by the Bush government. Now, former Senator Bob Graham, who helped oversee the congressional inquiry, is adamant that there is a Saudi-related cover-up there. And CNN also reported in February that the 28 pages focus on the role of foreign governments in the plot. And Representative Walter Jones, he said he doesn't understand if these pages were just made secret because it might somehow be embarrassing to the Bush administration and how close they were to the Saudi family. So that's definitely in there. But of course, those of us who have been questioning 9/11 and the official story all of these years, we know all of this. It's really nothing new.
Yes, Alex, thanks. Well, the press conference was at 10 o'clock today, the Senate Congressional Visitors Center, and Senator Paul led off the press conference announcing his support for a Senate bill to basically urge the president to declassify the 28 pages from the Joint Congressional Report of 2002 on the failures of 9/11. And joining Senator Paul were former Senator Bob Graham from Florida, who was the actual chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who has, of course, read those 28 pages, was the last final chop authority on those 28 pages with the rest of the report. And he urged, and he has been urging the White House. I know he's visited the White House and urged them to declassify the pages. Senator Paul announced that he has two co-sponsors for this Senate bill that would declassify the 28 pages, and they are Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, I should say, of New York. And he said if he's also planning on attaching this bill as an amendment to the Defense Authorization Act next week. So
incredible.
There are two avenues to get this through. On the House side, we had Representative Jones, Representative Lynch, and Representative Massey speak. What we heard from both Senator Paul and the congressman from the House side are that they have resistance from the bipartisan leadership in both houses on getting this through. They have very few co-sponsors, and it's quite clear that the leadership and that's Mitch McConnell in the Senate and John Boehner, the House Speaker, and various chairmen of various committees are just trying their darndest to block this effort. And Senator Paul made an interesting comment during his presentation. He said that the Saudi government has expressed support for releasing the 28 pages. So I asked him a question at the press conference, who in the Saudi government would be in favor of that, because the present King Salman was the governor of Riyadh province before 9/11. And I understand from talking to Saudi opposition forces, and these are Democratic opposition forces, that several Al-Qaeda members passed through Riyadh when Salman was governor of Riyadh on their way to Pakistan and Afghanistan. And they were given logistical support, cash, and a whole lot of support by the present King of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that sounds like in a movie when the guy has a dead body in this trunk and he says, sure, search my car, just trying to play a confidence game. We know from different folks we've had on, like Springman and others, from the visa section in Jeddah, that they were basically ordered by the CIA to let the 15 of the 19 hijackers in, even though they were flagged as terrorists. But when I get excited about Rand Paul, it's for this reason. He comes out, he points out that they've lied to us about spying on us. He points out it's not been used to stop terror. He points out that we've been helping fund ISIS. He brings up the fact that, hey, Saudi Arabia was allowed in 9/11. Don't claim I'm against national security. Release the information. He really seems to be in their face right now. A lot of politicians are saying, we don't like your strategy. You're not playing it safe. You know, you're going to lose now for doing this. It doesn't matter. He's doing the right thing. And it shows how alien that is to the mindset in Washington. What do you make of what Rand Paul's doing and taking a leadership role in this?
Well, he had, you know, I've covered politics here for a while, and to hear a Democrat like Bob Graham, former governor of Florida and longtime Democratic senator, was the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, was actually thanking and praising Rand Paul for his efforts, as were the members from the House side, including Democratic Congressman Stephen Lynch from Massachusetts.
I mean, it smells and looks like old-fashioned statesmanship and actually trying to have a free country.
Yeah, I was somewhat surprised to see a spirit of bipartisanship at that press conference today. I should also add that there was a Republican Virginia state senator in the audience, and he has also proposed a resolution urging the 28 pages. You know, that's just a sense of that would be a sense of the Virginia Senate. They don't have any authority over that type of thing, but he's introduced a similar resolution in the Virginia Senate.
Now, earlier this year, I predicted more feminist fails for 2015, but the feminists might just be winning on this one to the detriment of us all. Find out what I'm talking about coming up next. Earlier this year, I predicted more feminist fails for 2015. And one of those really stupid feminist causes was the issue of manspreading. Well, it turns out the feminists, they're winning on this one so far, as 2 men have been arrested for manspreading in New York. Yes, sitting with your legs slightly too far apart, as it used to be known, has apparently become a criminal offense. Now, rather than simply throwing out these charges, the judge issued an order that only guarantees that these men won't suffer any further repercussions if they avoid getting arrested again in the near future. Now, the term manspreading was coined by feminist bloggers who started tracking this antisocial behavior on public transport, but it has reached the real world too, and so it's been banned in New York and Seattle. Ah, my goodness, it's so insane. But this has prompted a counter movement, counter shaming, called she-bagging, and this is, you know, all in the name of equality. Twitter users are now shaming women who take up an extra seat with a handbag, a shopping bag, dog, or plants, all sorts of things. So this is what it has come to, is just arresting people for not being aware of personal space, not being polite. And, you know, if you scroll down there, you can see some of the men that are caught manspreading are giants. They don't even fit in one seat on the plane. But here, this lady's taken up 3 seats. So, you know, this is what it's come to. The policy is, it's most likely going to be used to harass people and just, you know, be an excuse to harass people, most likely minorities, so they can say, oh, sorry, you were manspreading. It's, you know, the land of the free, home of the brave, right? Land of the fee, home of the slave, I believe they call it now. But the kids today, they're not just being conditioned to fear any triggers and hide in their safe spaces. They are also being prepared to be the cyborgs of tomorrow. Now, Disney and Marvel have unveiled their latest new wearable toys. The Playmations will first roll out, slated for October. So Playmation's first rollout includes a wearable Iron Man-inspired repulsor that kids can strap to their arm, as well as 2 power activators, which will presumably activate powers, and 2 smart figures. Now, Disney's goal here is to untether the experience from consoles and specific locations and let kids and adults play by wandering around, running, jumping, and exploring. And, you know, maybe they'll even attach them to virtual headsets soon. Back in my day, we used to call that playing outdoors. So here we have toys that are basically turning children into Iron Man, and it actually sounds pretty awesome. But I think that that's the point, because, you know, once you get addicted to these wearables, then you're going to have to get your brain chip upgrades to enhance the experience. Now, stay tuned. We're going to have a very important Fukushima update from Alex Jones.
Alex Jones here with a very important Fukushima update. Well, almost 5 years has passed since the tragic events that took place in 2011 north of Tokyo, Japan, in a province known as Fukushima. Of the 6 reactors damaged by the tsunami and the subsequent earthquake, 5 partially or totally exploded. And one of the key reactors that was actually a plutonium reactor, even more dangerous than the traditional uranium reactor, the MOX core system completely exploded with a giant hydrogen chain reaction. We had scientists on at the time who were able to study the isotopes and confirmed that indeed a fission chain reaction had taken place. Now, quite frankly, there is no silver bullet to protect yourself from radiation. The northern hemisphere of our planet has double to triple, depending what time of year we're looking at, of the southern hemisphere, simply because most nuclear disasters from Chernobyl to Fukushima and nuclear testing have taken place in the northern hemisphere. This is quite frankly insane. But it was four and a half years ago that I began to really research radiation poisoning and things that were happening around the world so that I could try to mitigate what was happening to myself and my family. Because we had the reports from Connecticut on the East Coast and places in California and other areas of increased radioactive isotopes in cow's milk because they were eating on the surface of the grass where it was bioaccumulating. It was showing up in higher levels in tuna off California. And the media was saying it was no big deal. Now higher levels of radiation is supposedly okay for you. Well, now the International Business Times, RT, and others are reporting that there are over 200 plus containers at the wrecked facility where 5 of the reactors were damaged, several totally exploded, that are filled with spent fuel rods and that are building up hydrogen again that could cause massive explosions. Each one of them could end up being bigger than what we saw back in 2011. This is simply insane. The entire facility on the edge of the ocean, because of the water they're dumping on it to keep it cooled down, the radioactive rods that are heating up, is causing the whole facility to sink into the ground. Bottom line, Fukushima is only going to get worse. So I began to do research. And as I said back in a clip a few years ago, short of moving to the southern hemisphere, there's really nothing you can do other than protecting the tissues and the cells that we already have in our bodies. And